I think the HX Stomp is the best piece of gear for bridging the gap between a fully modeled and digital guitar signal and a traditional pedal board and amp setup. This is my current pedal board, and this is a Pedal Train Classic Junior. And as you can see, the HX Stomp fits really well here. It takes up about as much room as the Strymon Timeline. It's not very big. So for my setup, the HX Stomp is basically the brains of the operation. I'm using the effects loop on the Stomp to include all of these other pedals. And all of these other pedals can change at any time, just like you would change your pedal board any other time. A quick detail on the effects loop. This is not the effects loop of any modeled amp in Helix or HX Stomp. This is the effects loop of the hardware. So I can put that effects loop as a block in any portion of the signal chain within HX Stomp software. If you want, you can put that block in between the speaker and the amp and get more of a traditional effects loop setup. However, that's not great for overdrives, boosts, things like that. So out of the send on HX Stomp, I go down into that script phase 90 and then across all of the other pedals in a traditional model. So it goes into the overdrives, then the Juliana, then the timeline. And from the timeline, that goes back into the return of HX Stomp. Then my guitar goes in the guitar input on the Stomp, and the output of the Stomp, the regular 1/4 inch out, goes to wherever I want. This could be a tube amp, it could be an FR cab, the front of house, like the PA, even into an interface for recording, or I could go out of the USB as well. Then in Stomp or HX Edit or wherever you're doing this, all you need to do is place the effects loop block wherever you want it. I usually put it pretty early in the signal chain. For me right now, this is that signal chain. I'm using the S6A30, like a Vox AC30 type thing. I've got my ML Sound Labs speaker IR, as well as like fun stuff like an envelope follower. I would never use an envelope follower enough to want to purchase one, but I can have a lot of fun with it in a setup like this. I think the best thing about a setup like this is redundancy and like the security you get of no single point of failure. So what if you're playing into a tube amp, right, and your tube amp dies? Well, you can just run amp modeling and speaker modeling in HX Stomp and go direct to front of house. What if you have a pedal fail or a patch cable dies out of nowhere and you don't have time to troubleshoot? Well, you can just eliminate the effects loop block and then go right into your amp or, again, front of house if you wanted. And even if for whatever reason the HX Stomp fails, you can just eliminate it from the signal path and go into the first pedal in the chain and out of the last pedal in the chain to your amp like a regular pedal board. Fortunately, I've never had to employ any of that redundancy, but the options are really nice. I'm not going to bother with like a sound demo for this because I think it's kind of irrelevant. It's mostly the detail of using that effects loop block to put anything you want inside of HX Stomp. So we all know this, right? That's why they included an effects loop, but the integration of an entire pedal board is really what makes it. So if you're thinking about something like an HX Stomp, it doesn't have to be all digital or all traditional pedal board. You can mesh the two together in really interesting ways, and that's what I've done here. And it's a blast. It's a ton of fun to mix these worlds like this because you really get the best of both. If you found this interesting or helpful, let us know in the comments. Drop a like if that's more your jam. And of course, the Tone Control is a guitar podcast, so if you're into this and want to hear more about it, just look up the Tone Control in your favorite podcast app. We have a Discord that you can join, totally free, and we have a Patreon that you can join as well if you're really into it. So, HX Stomp, guys. It kicks!